Hi, you are watching You and Your Right, and it's brought to you by Fortune Solicitors every Monday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. This evening, too, we've come your way with a topical issue. In fact, we could be discussing it as an update because it's just fresh and obviously it will be good for people to be aware of, and that is what Fortune solicitors we always do when things come fresh. We make sure that we come your way with it. That is the main reason why it is always good for you to tune in on Mondays from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. to listen to topical issues like this. This evening we're going to discuss a an pertinent application or pertinent condition when it comes to people who come to the UK because of their partners, or people who are in the UK because of their partners. In every relationship, there might be ups and downs. But when it gets to the point that we describe it as domestic violence, what does the immigration I've been told that I was on mute, so people couldn't hear me. Thanks very much for sticking by this evening's program. Please, amidst all these technicalities, please don't go away because it is very, very crucial. It is something that is happening under the carpet. People don't want to talk about it. But at Photo Solicitors, we always bring you topical issues that might affect you, your neighbor, your friend, or your relative. So without much ado and not wasting much time, we are going to explore the impact of migrant victims of domestic violence or domestic abuse. This has been going on for obviously in every relationship. There might be issues that has to do with abuse. People might be aware of the abuses that are happening, others might not be aware of. This evening, we're going to tell you if you are suffering from a specific type of syndrome, let me say, or a particular cohesion. We might let you know that it's an abuse or not. And to make it more attractive, the Home Office, they've come out with a new concession. And I cannot stress that there is a new concession for people that we didn't even think that they could qualify under domestic violence when it comes to the immigration rules. That is the most reason why you have to stick by, you have to share this video to other people so that they might also benefit from it. In this evening's episode, I've got in the studio with me one and only one lawyer, Daniel Coy, who is a solicitor and a director of Fort Worth Solicitors. I'm privileged to have him in the studios this evening to delve into or to talk about this particular topic. So, without much ado, obviously, we spent a lot of time already. Can you introduce yourself? This might be the first time someone is watching you and they would want to know your name and who you are.
Thank you very much, Lawyer Patrick, and thank you for the introduction. I think there is another aspect of the program that you failed to mention or you forgot to mention, which is to do with the statement of changes HC 556, which was announced today, with some of them taking effect from today, with some of them taking effect from the 11th of March. So, for those of you who are joining us or who want to be joining us as we go along, share it because there's important updates regarding skilled workers, especially
Oh, okay, yeah.
people who are care workers. So if you are here as a care worker, if you are here as a senior care worker, or you are planning to make an application as a care worker, there is an important update that has been announced by the Home Office today with exact timelines coming into when some of the changes will be taken into effect. We'll be talking about that close to the end of the program. But for now, just be aware we need to share, we need people to join us so that we'll be able to share the information with them. So there are quite a number of things going on. On the 16th of February, the Home Office announced the impact or the expanded migrants of victims of domestic violence concession, which we will be discussing into detail. What it goes into, the people who are eligible, and it's exciting, even though domestic violence is not a conversation that you normally want to be having. But of course, the Home Office have expanded it to include a group of people which we believe people need to know. And this also, we will be talking about the fact that the care workers are involved or they have been included. That will be going into detail. So stick to us. People need to stay tuned. There's so much that we'll be discussing today. Of course, we are going to discuss the how you can make an application as a victim of a domestic violence and all that. So, Lawyer Patrick, without wasting much time or without taking much of the time, because we had a few technical challenges at the initial stages, let's start the process. Let's start our discussions. I don't know whether you will start with the application process. Who and who what domestic violence actually means, what does it entail, and if you can brief before we go into it into today's topic.
Thank you, lawyer Daniel, for obviously introducing yourself and bringing me in straight away. We are not even going to go for any quick commercial break. People who are joining us, this is the time for you to share because we are not going to go and ask you to share. Please share it because it's very crucial. So, domestic violence is something that obviously happens in a relationship. It happens in our homes. People are aware of it, people might not be aware of it. But in this particular episode of You and Your Right, it's all about immigration when it comes to domestic violence. When we talk about domestic violence, what people mostly associate it with is family law, which is all right. However, when it comes to immigration law too, domestic violence plays a big role in the immigration status of an individual who is coming into the UK as a partner of someone who lives in the UK. So what that means is that if your partner is sponsored you to come to the UK, one way or the other, we will be going into it, and you are experiencing this particular I will use symptoms, or you are experiencing this particular type of behavior in your home, then you know that there is a domestic abuse, there is violence going on. People most at time thinks that it's only when someone is beating you up and punching you that is what domestic violence is all about. But no, there are forms of abuses that people are not aware of. One of them is obviously the physical abuse that we all of us know when someone's face is punched. Black eye, obviously most of us might not have the black eye but might have some facial disorders. We know that that is something that we call abuse. But there are also psychological abuse, belittling your partner. And when we talk about partners, please don't let's limit ourselves only to the female partner. Let's be broad minded. Let's go into the male partner and the female partner in this particular episode of domestic violence or victim of domestic abuse. Let's be broad minded. It's for the male and for the females as well. So we might have psychological abuse as well that might be happening, belittling an individual of maybe their weight, their size, their vital organ sizes, and all those things. Psychologically, that individual might be feeling threatened because of their partner always saying something bad about a physical appearance of that individual, or the way they behave, the way they talk. Psychologically, that individual might be affected. Again, there are abuses when it comes to financial. There are people that bring their spouses or they bring their partners into this country. And trust me, they take control, absolute control of their finances, whereby they even have to come and beg them for money to buy food to eat. That is an abuse that probably you might not be aware of, that you need to know. There are also sexual abuse as well. People come in, it is always good that your partner will want to have sex with you, but there are people who come in as partners or as dependent of people who are settled or who have specific type of leave to remain in the UK, and they are sexually abused, both male and female alike. There are other people who also emotionally abused, and the emotions of the individual can be abused, whereby you are damping the spirit of that partner that you brought into the UK. The UK government, the immigration rules make sure that you, that individual who is come as a dependent of that individual who lives in the UK, you shouldn't be suffering from this particular forms of abuse that I have talked about. So the definition: any incident of controlling, coercion, or coercive behavior or violent behavior perpetrated against you, the individual, in the forms that I have mentioned, being a physical, being a psychological, being a financial, being a sexual, being a emotional, you know that there is domestic abuse. And this evening's topic is all about you. So if you know someone who you think or who is in fact experiencing this situation that we are talking about, that is the time for you to make sure that that individual knows about this program and you share it for that individual to know about. Like that, with all these forms of, or with the definition of domestic abuse that we've talked about, someone will be asking themselves that how am I able to prove, or what are some of the evidence that I'm able to prove to the Home Office if the it is due for me to make an application based on domestic violence that you introduce, that there are new concession, many applicants can make this particular application. What are some of the evidences that we would need so that we're able to prove that there is domestic abuse? We are being abused by our partner. So, can you take us through a bit about some of the evidence that we need to show to prove that, in fact, there is domestic abuse?
Thank you very much, Lawyer Patrick. When we look at the immigration rules, we do not have a specific or mandatory evidence or documents that need to be submitted with an application. However, all information and evidence submitted must be considered in the round and a conclusion drawn as to whether, on the balance of probability, such as it's being more likely than not, based on information and evidence available, the relationship has broken down because of domestic violence, or there has been the applicant has been a victim of domestic violence. It is very, very important on this basis because there are so many cases that we hear about or we get, or people who get in touch, and once you have spoken to them you realize that they don't really have evidence of the domestic violence. Either they are too scared to report it to the police, they are too scared to report it to a family member, or they are not too sure what need to be kept. And sometimes the nature of the abuse is such that it is either psychological and or emotional, and it's not a physical abuse, as you rightly said in your earlier submission. Of course, when we look at the immigration rules says that there should be no distinction between psychological or mental abuse and physical abuse when making a decision as to whether somebody is to be granted or eligible for under this concession or under these rules. So that is something very, very, very important. There are a number of factors that the Home Office ought to consider when making an application or when considering such applications. And one of them is the nature of the domestic abuse alleged and the reasons given for any difficulties in obtaining or providing evidence. They need to be considered. For example, if a victim is subjected to controlling and coercive behavior, including threats to their immigration status or custody of their children, the the victim is more unlikely to disclose such abuse to authorities or a third party. So it is important when presenting these cases that you seek regulated legal advice to make sure that you are able to present your case properly, because clearly there may be some people who may not have clear evidence of the abuse that they are going through. Some people may not have any clear evidence, but they will be able to document, or they will be able to give chronological statements on what has happened during the period that they have lived together. We also know of some people who may sometimes reconcile or attempts to reconcile when these applications are being made, and sometimes we need to also look at all those things. So clearly there might be cases that the police might not be involved, but we will be able to go ahead and make such applications. We will look at the factors, we will look at what statements can be obtained during the process of interviewing such individuals. And these are some of the things that the Home Office will look at. It's important whilst we are talking about this that recently the Home Office made some changes to what we call transnational marriage abandonment. Lawyer Patrick, I know we haven't said this, but it's important we state this as well because this is quite common and can be people can be victims of it, whereby somebody might be married to somebody, and based on that, their person's visa is related to that. The person may travel, and whilst the person is abroad, the home office will be the person will make a report to the home office so that the home office will cancel the person's leave so the person doesn't come back. All these things can be classified or can be looked at under these immigration rules, the guidance, the concessions that have been given, and we will be looking at all these things if you think you are a victim of domestic violence and you want us to look at it for you. We know that people may be scared, people may be worried about the abuses that they are going through and they will not be forthcoming in coming out. But trust me, we have done this job for a very long time and we have the knowledge and word without or know how we can manage some of these processes to ensure that people do not fall victim or people do not end up being worse from the time they reported the case till the time they leave us once they've been able to report the issues to us. It is very, very important for people to understand that when people find themselves in these situations, they may not have the financial means to fight their cases. So there is a lot of support from the Home Office when it comes to making application for fee waivers and all that, and even a lot of charities that may be able to support such applicants throughout the process. And we will take you through that. But as you said, if you have the evidence, it makes our matter or the issue less like more easier to deal with. So if the matter has been reported to the police and there's evidence of a report being made, if applications have been made, you've been to the doctors, there have been medical reports that have been taken, there's evidence of it. These are things that we will be looking at when making or when considering whether we can make an application for somebody to be able to succeed with such applications that we are talking about. So, earlier, Patrick, these are some of the things that we are looking at. We are looking at evidence of coercion. If maybe your bank account is being withheld, your passport has been taken away from you, you are not being allowed to have access to any income that you are making. There have been threats of your visa being cancelled and you being removed from the country. All these things are factors that we'll be considering when somebody makes a report of being a victim of domestic violence. And as we say, there is help out there. So if you feel you are a victim, make sure you seek help at the earliest or at the onset of all those issues that you are facing. But of course, we are also excited about the concessions that have been announced that we'll be going into it. So when I'm excited, I really wish we can go into it now, but clearly we have to also break down the application process so that people will know how these applications are made and what entitlements they are due, so that when they have to make an application or they are looking at their situation or their circumstances, they will know what we will be looking at when we have to assist them. Come in, Lawyer Patrick.
Thank you very much. And as you rightly said, you are excited about the new concession because obviously, as we were deliberating on this topic, we were baffled, like we were amazed that, oh, so this category of people are also being kind of included in applicants who are being abused in the UK. Previously, there were specific people or there were specific sponsors that if you are being brought to the UK, then you are able to make an application based on the DV. Now I cannot even say concession, but that particular route. That is how we will come into the immigration rules. We just want to make sure that we are going to give you the new concession, but we just want you to know about some of the people that they qualify if they are in fact abused domestically because of their leave to remain in the UK. When you are in the UK based on your leave to remain, as someone who is being sponsored as a spouse of someone who lives in the UK with indefinite leave to remain or British citizen, then we know that if there are or there is any form of domestic abuse, this topic that we are talking about, you might be qualified to make an application. In fact, we will talk about it, the type of application that you make, which will even marvel you if you are a victim of domestic abuse. So we knew that people who were sponsored by people under the Appendix FM are people that can use this concession or used to use this concession. Again, partners of refugees are people that we know as we are talking now or previously. They are the people who are able to take advantage of this particular domestic abuse application. Again, people who are in the UK based on appendix armed forces, because there are people who come to the UK because their spouse or their partners are working in the armed forces. If there is any domestic abuse, by virtue of you being under the Appendix FM, you are a partner of a refugee, or you are a partner of someone who works at the armed forces, you will qualify to at least make an application under the domestic violence or domestic abuse, subject to all the evidence and the requirements that you need to make or need to satisfy. One of the requirements that people need to be aware of is that you have to be present in the UK. You cannot be outside the UK and claim that you are a subject of domestic abuse. You have to be here in the UK, and you have to have a suitability, you have to satisfy the suitability requirement. Obviously, you're not a criminal, you've not abused the immigration rules and all those things that come with it. And you have made a valid application. And you can only make that valid application if you know what the rules are, if you know what type of application that you have to make. With Fortual Solicitors, we are here to help, to assist if you need further information. And as we always say, this is just for educational purposes. If you need further advice, if you know someone who is a subject of domestic abuse, or if you are a subject of domestic abuse and you want to make a specific type of application that will grant you, let me say it now, indefinitely to remain in the UK because you are a subject of domestic abuse, then you have to know the type of application that you have to make. Fortual Solicitors, we are there to assist you. I will say at this point that we are still doing our initial free consultation. Call us. Our numbers are on the screen. You can email us if you need an appointment. Let's have a chat. Your first 30 minutes, we're going to give it to you free of charge. Speak to a lawyer at Fortual Solicitors, and we're able to assist you in any immigration issue. And I'm also happy to say, or it is my privilege to say, that we all only do immigration. We do also family law, we do employment law, we do civil litigation and wills and probate. If you have any issues or issues in these areas of law that I've talked to you about, then please kindly call Fortual Solicitors and we will be able to assist you. I know people have been watching us and they might want to go for a quick commercial break and get a cup of tea or probably get some water, go for a wee. We will not keep you long. You're just going to go and flash back in a jiffy just to remind you you are watching You and Your Right, and it's brought to you by Fortual Solicitors. We're going to be right back. Hi, welcome back to You and Your Right. It's always brought to you by Photo Solicitors every Monday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Please make a date and every week watch us because we always come your way with topical issues. This evening, or wherever you are watching us from, we are exploring the impact of the expanded migrant victim of domestic violence, which obviously at the moment it's come with a new concession that is blowing our minds because previously there were specific people who can rely on this domestic violence to obtain their indefinite leave to remain in the UK. But there are people now that they can use this particular route to stay in the UK. So we are very excited that we are making this program to educate people to be able to know about this new concession. The new concession applies to people to stay. You can get your indefinite leave to remain. There are people that it's mind-boggling that they are part of it, but that is UK for you. And as we know, we are in the studio with Lawyer Dan. He will be taking us through the new concession, what the new concession is all about, the policy intention, why they decided that they are going to make these particular changes. But he's going to talk to you about the new concession so that you will know. And if you have families or friends or relatives who might fall into this particular concession, as we always say, try and share the video to them so that they'll be able to contact Photo Solicitors and we will be able to assist them. And I'm giving shout out to all our viewers on Facebook, everywhere that you are watching us from. Thanks for watching us. Continue to share the stream for other people to watch as well. Lawyer Dan.
Thank you very much, Lawyer Patrick. As you rightly said, we are very excited about this concession that has been announced by the Home Office on the 16th of February. And it comes a long way. We've come a long way with this concession. So, for as a way of background, this concession provides a short period of independent immigration status and financial support to certain partners who are victims of domestic abuse, which allows them to leave an abusive relationship to a position of safety and support. So, when you make the application, you will normally be given a period of 3 months permission to stay. The victim must, by that so doing, address their immigration status by way of making an application to stay in the UK through a relevant immigration route, apply for settlement on Form Set DV if they qualify, or make arrangements to leave the UK. So it gives you a respite period of 3 months. So
Yeah.
this is what it is. Previously, this concession was only available to people who are partners under what we call Appendix FM or Appendix Armed Forces. But based on this announcement, it has been expanded to provide this period of status for people who are currently dependents as partners or who are here as permission on work, sponsored and economic route, or as students or graduates. So if you are here as a dependent of somebody who is on a skilled worker visa, then you can make an application under this scheme if you are being abused. Very, very, very important, because one of the biggest immigration routes that has been opened recently are people coming in as skilled workers, either as care workers or as senior workers or under any of the skilled worker scheme. So if you've made an application under any of these economic routes and you are a victim of domestic violence, you can make an application under this concession, which is brilliant. If you are here
Yeah,
as a
very good.
dependent, do you want to come in?
No, no, I say it's very good. It's good news. So I'm just,
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes, of course. And if you are coming in or you are a dependent on somebody who is on a student visa and you are being abused, Lawyer Patrick, we've had so many stories, we've heard so many incidents where people are dependent on students. And even after completion of their course, they want their CAS or they want a copy of the letter from the partner so that they can make an application to switch because they have been granted an employment. So they want to switch to skilled worker. And then the main applicant is refusing to release that information to them. So clearly, this is a typical situation where such a person can take advantage of this scheme, whereby they can make an application, switch to this, give them the 3 month, then they make an application for skilled worker visa. So that is something very, very, very interesting, and people need to be looking at it. And when you talked about it, one of the eligibility criteria, what that we are looking currently is people who are on the skilled worker scheme. That does not mean that people who are already here as partners of under Appendix EU, under Appendix FM are not qualified. They also continue to qualify, but it has been broadened to include more people, which we believe is interesting and very good. In fact, once you are part of the eligibility people, the group of people who can make an application, it's important that we also follow an application process, which we'll be discussing shortly. But, Lawyer Patrick, do you realize that based on the changes that they have made, there are going to be a lot of students, a lot of skilled workers. There are some people who are skilled workers who have come into the country, and for one reason or the other, their relationship has broken down. Either they have been abandoned, they cannot even find their partners. The one time you come home, the person has left home, you don't know where the person is, and then you are stranded simply because you are dependent on that person. You are thinking, how do I change my status so that I become independent of that person? I can see a lot of scenarios where people can be able to take advantage of this. What also is interesting is that the applicant who wants to make an application to this may be able to access public funds. So if you are here as an EU, as a skilled worker, and you are the dependent, maybe you've got children, and then the main applicant decides to abandon the relationship or decide you become a victim of domestic violence and you want to make an application and you don't even have the financial means to make the application. Once you switch to this route, you will be able to have access to public funds, which will then enable you to be able to make an application to certain routes. So, if somebody decides to do this, can you tell us briefly, maybe within two, three sentences, how the application process rolls, or if you're happy for me to proceed with that, Lawyer Patrick?
Um, the application process, obviously finish it off so that we go to the policy intention and how the benefit that they are going to get. But in any event, when you are
Mhm.
being told about the application process by a lawyer Dan, that does not mean that you should just get on your desk and start filling application forms, because we are just educating you. Your specific circumstance might be different from someone else. And
Yeah.
it's not only the filling of the application form, it's not only the paying of the fees. Probably these people might not even pay the fee because of their situation. But please be careful. Don't go and fill the application form because Lawyer Dan is telling you how the application process is going.
Well,
So you can
well,
go
yes,
on.
I'm happy. I'm happy to discuss the application process simply because of uh, how sensitive this discussion is, and the fact that many people, or there might be somebody who is listening to us today who may benefit from it. But it's important that there is a form that you need to complete, and once you complete the form, you can either email it or you post it to the home office. This application is normally not done online like the other application that we normally know about. And once you have made an application, the home office will decide within a few days whether you qualify for it or not. And once you are granted permission, when we look at the guidance, the good thing is that the home office will advise you under what uh, maybe type of public funds that you may qualify for, any charities that may be able to guide you. And once they are granted, you are also going to be given a letter, and then you're going to be given a biometric residence permit, which will then allow you to do whatever you want to do with it. The Home Office will then also advise you whether you qualify to make an application for settlement under the appendix settlement scheme. So if you qualify for settlement, it's not everybody who will qualify for indefinite leave to remain once they get this scheme. So this is one area that a lot of people or a lot of charities have still criticized on this policy, even though the policy have been made and they have enlarged the eligibility criteria to other people, visa holders. What they are saying is that it doesn't go wide enough to give them a permanent stay. So some people may make an application thinking that, oh, once I have been granted this concession, I'm going to get indefinite leave to remain. But it's important we make people understand that you are only going to be given 3 months leave to stay to allow you to switch to something else. So that 3 months is being given to you. During that 3 months period, you'll be allowed to work, you'll be allowed to make to have access to public funds, but it is not everybody who will have access to indefinite leave to remain. So that is something that people ought to be aware of before they make the application. Even though a lot of charity organizations have criticized this, it's important we are aware of it so that when you're making a decision to switch or to go to that route, you think about that after 3 months, what next for me before you make a decision. But there might be a lot of people who will still benefit in any way. As I said, there are some people who are students who their partners are the main applicants, they are dependents. They have now come to a point where they need to make an application to switch. But because their main applicant is not supporting the application, they don't have the necessary documents for them to switch. But once they are able to switch to this, they will be able to do that independently of the main applicant. So that is something that people need to be aware of. It is also important for people to know that there's a possibility to be refused. And once you are refused, the Home Office will notify you in writing and return all your documents that you submitted together. That's the reason why we are saying that it's important you seek legal advice before you make this application. It's also important or good to note that once you make an application within time, your Section 3C leave is extended. When we say Section 3C leave, Section 3C of the Immigration Act 1971 is allows people who make an application before their current visas expire, the conditions that they have is extended for those people. So anybody who makes an application within time during this process, their current leave will be extended, and then whether the Home Office takes 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months to make a decision, they can continue working during that process. It is also the final part I want to say is that when you make such an application and the application is refused, you do not have automatic right to appeal. You don't have automatic right to do administrative review. So it is very, 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 very important that when making such applications, you consider whether you have the legal know-how, you have the knowledge to go through the whole process. As we already stated in our earlier presentation, there are a number of people who will not have the evidence that they need to be able to make a successful application. So that is why seeking professional help in such applications is very important. So that's something people need to be aware of. Before we also go to the next topic or the statement of changes that have been announced, it is also important to understand that you may not have automatic right to reconsiderations. So you cannot simply say, oh, my application has been refused. Can the Home Office reconsider it? But if you think or you are able to make submissions to the effect that the Home Office have not applied its policy correctly, they will refer the matter to a senior caseworker who will then make a decision as to whether your matter should be reconsidered or not. But when you find yourself in such situations, I will strongly recommend you seek legal help in such situations because we might consider things like judicial review and all that to make sure that maybe that might be an appropriate recourse for you. So, Lawyer Patrick, if you want or you have anything to add, please come in, add it up before we quickly talk about the changes that has been announced for the care workers going forward from next month.
All right, thank you very much. Obviously, you've explained a lot, but there was something that you touched on that because of this new concession is threw away a bit uh, dicey because what everyone knew was that when you are making application based on domestic violence, you are going to be granted indefinite leave to remain. And it's just based on the fact that previously you would have been making the application because you had made an application based on appendix fm, you had made an application based on appendix armed forces, or maybe a partner of a refugee. But now the new concession allows even students to still qualify to make application under this new domestic violence. Obviously, the student hasn't got indefinite leave to remain. So how can you even get your indefinite leave? So I'm very happy that you made mention of that because in the previous rules, we know that majority of them would first of all get their frame and put themselves together, and 100% they're going to get their indefinite leave to remain if they are able to prove. But this one, please don't go and stand somewhere and say that, oh, I heard from photo solicitor's page that when someone makes application for based on domestic violence, they are automatically going to be granted indefinite leave to remain. Your specific circumstance might not be the same as the new concession. Let's go into the updates that we've heard so far so that people will know
Yes.
about it, then we will end the program. Lawyer Dan.
Okay, so this afternoon the Home Office announced or made a statement of changes, what we will normally refer to as HC 556. And without notice, the biggest announcement or the biggest note from it was the fact that the Ukraine Family Scheme has ended from 3 p.m. or today without any notice. But without that, I think most of our viewers or most of the our followers may rather concern themselves with the changes that has taken effect for care workers. So from 11th of March, any application made before then will be decided in accordance with the current rules. So if you are listening to me today, I don't want any confusion. I don't want any, I heard this, I heard that. If you are listening to me today and you still have time up to the 11th of March to make an application as a care worker together with your dependents. So if you are listening to me today and you want to make an application, no problem. The changes have affected occupation codes 6145 and 6146. 6145 are for care workers and 6146 are for senior care workers. Anybody who is making an application under this code, which is 6145 and 6146, from the 11th of March, will not be able to make an application to bring their dependents, that is, their spouses, their children. It is, however, important to note that this does not apply or this does not affect people who are already in the UK under this scheme. So, if you are speaking to me today and you are currently in the UK as a care worker under the 6145 code or the 6146 code, and you want to bring your partner from the 12th of March 2024, you can still make an application to bring your partner from the 12th of March 2024. However, if you make an application as a skilled worker from that date and then you want to bring your partner from that date, you will not be able to bring your partner. So that is the difference, and that is what I want to make clear for people to understand without any ambiguity. Furthermore, the Home Office have introduced a new requirement that if you are being sponsored or somebody is want to make an application under 6145 and 6146, that person's organization must be registered with the Care Quality Commission and carrying on a regulated activity in order to be able to sponsor care workers. Previously, we had organizations that could sponsor care workers without being regulated under the Care Quality Commission, but the Home Office have made changes to that effect. So if you are being sponsored and you have not already submitted your application, make sure that you put your application in before the 11th of March, before it causes any issues for you. This is the changes that has been announced as of today by the Home Office. So please, if you are not too sure, you don't know what is going on, please get in touch with us. From tomorrow 9:30 to 5:30, we will clarify that for you. We will assist you. We'll do whatever we have to do, but make sure that you understand that this will come into force from the 11th of March. Very, very, very important. And the group or the category of people that this is going to affect, we were already told that this was coming anyway. So most people were aware of these schemes, but just so that you know, this has now come to fore. This has now been announced, and this will be taken into effect from the 11th of March 2024. Thank you very much, Lawyer Patrick.
Thank you, Lawyer Dan, for the last update for this particular program. Our time is fast spent. We're not going to bore you again with any talks. But every Monday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., we come your way with topical issues like this. This is the only platform that you're going to get an update that is just dropped today. You won't get it anywhere. That is the most reason why, and that's the reason why you have to always tune in every Monday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. and try and share videos to other people and encourage them to also to join the broadcast during this period, because it's very, very, very important that we get ourselves updated. Thanks to everyone who has watched us, all our viewers on Facebook, we acknowledge you. There's not enough time for me to mention your name, but if you are watching us, we thank you, and please continue to watch us every Monday and invite your friends to also to watch us. This program is just for educational purposes. Please call us, free consultation. Your first 30 minutes and your specific circumstance will be discussed, and we will advise you appropriately. Thanks for watching You and Your Right, and it's brought to you by Fortwo Solicitors. And thank you to Lawyer Dan for joining me this evening for this edition of You and Your Right. Thank you, Lawyer Dan.
Thank you very much. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.